Hello everyone, and welcome on back to the video, or the YouTube channel. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing absolutely wonderful. Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds has launched, and with it came a bunch of new spears for each of the professions. Now, there was a beta a few months ago, and I've posted videos in regards to my impressions for those weapons. However, with it being live, there have been some updates and additional changes. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my main profession, and that is the Guardian. My lovely Guardian here. He's so cute. He's so wholesome. He's just a little guy. And I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the Guardian's spear weapon and how I've been using the spear in my open world gameplay experience and how it fits with all of the elite specializations. So first and foremost, let's go over the abilities themselves, just to keep everyone on an equal playing field. First up, we have Day-Breaking Slash, which is the auto attack. You'll swing your spear, sending out a wave of light to damage and heal allies. This has a bit of a longer range. It's not necessarily melee oriented in the way that you might expect, where you have to be up close and personal. It has a range of 350, so even if you are backing away and or evading and you have to get out of a pool of damage, you can still hit enemies from a little bit of a forgiving distance. The next ability is Helio Rush. This charges you in the direction that you choose, and upon passing through enemies, you deal damage to them. While passing through allies, you will heal them. The third ability is Gleaming Disc, which allows you to spin around once, dealing damage, and then after a delay, it bursts out some more damage. The fourth ability is Solar Storm, which allows you to throw down a flurry of spears from the sky. It comes with a beautiful spell symbol above wherever you target, and it does damage, but it will also strike allies, removing conditions from them. And if those conditions are successfully removed, you will heal them as well. It's really a very beautiful effect. And then this fifth ability is Symbol of Luminance. Interrupt them or deal control to them by knocking them back a distance of 0, so they will remain in the area, but you also grant resistance to yourself and all allies. Noticed while I'm going through all of these abilities that there are certain features attached to all of the abilities called the Illuminated effect. The way that this weapon kit works is when you're in combat and you successfully use your 2 through 5 abilities on an enemy, you'll gain the Illuminated buff, which then augments and buffs the next spear attack you use. So in the instance of Helio Rush, it maintains its core function of damage and healing, but it will just do more healing and more damage to enemies and allies, while also weakening enemies and granting resolution to allies. So it's just a bigger buff for it. Your third ability, if it is illuminated, the shockwave deals additional damage and inflicts conditions on enemies and grants boons to allies. So this one is a little bit more complex in terms of you might want to focus on using this ability while you have that illuminated buff, because it does so much more damage, and importantly, it's able to share out these beneficial boons of Fury and Might. The blindness is nice, but those boons are really, really good. For Solar Storm, while you have the illuminated effect, you will send out more shards from the sky. Now, we'll showcase this, but I'm going to proc Symbol of Luminance first, because Symbol of Luminance, while you're standing in it, you don't have to be in combat, you will always gain the illuminated effect. So you can see here, more spears will shoot down from the sky. I think it's about 2 or 3 more spears that will fall down. 2 more spears, so a little bit more damage, more healing, and more condition removal. And then finally, Symbol of Luminance. If you happen to have the illuminated effect when you are going to be using the Symbol of Luminance, this means that Symbol of Luminance will maintain on you if you move outside. You can see that if you're in the symbol, you gain it, but if you move outside, it goes away. If you proc this while you have that effect originally, that means that you don't have to worry about standing inside that symbol. For the spear, I would say the category for this weapon is more of a power damage support hybrid, where you're going to be focusing on those physical strikes. So power, precision, and ferocity are going to be fairly important. But it does allow you to play with a bit more support because of the healing on the auto attack, the second ability, and Condi removal and healing on the fourth attack with Solar Storm. And with all these abilities and how they interact with the mechanic, it's been very fun. It doesn't require too much micromanaging to get used to the mechanics. They really chain seamlessly in between each other, and they all, in general, feel relatively effective. I find the third ability, Gleaming Disc, the fourth ability, Solar Storm, and the Symbol of Illuminance to gain the most benefit from the illuminated mechanic. And this leaves the auto attack and the second skill to be a little less exciting, in my opinion. One area of a missed opportunity I find for this weapon is not incorporating an effect into the auto attack. So what I would like to see is have the auto attack gain bonus if you have the illuminated effect on you, because it is an auto attack and oftentimes they're rolling. So it shouldn't consume it, but I think it should still gain a benefit. Perhaps applying a stack of vulnerability on your auto attacks and granting a small amount of regen to your allies, or just doing more damage and healing if you have the illuminated effect on you. And then as for Helio Rush, I would love if you use this for the illuminated effect. If it leaves a trail of light behind you that lingers for 2 or 3 seconds, and if allies pass through it or stand in it, they gain additional health over time. Just because I think Helio Rush can be a little bit tricky to visualize where the healing is going, how wide that healing is, and sometimes players are moving around so quickly with quickness and swiftness and teleports that it can be kind of difficult to gain this support effect from Helio Rush. And or maybe if you can't do a full trail, wherever you start your rush from or either end it, you leave a healing area at that location for allies to gain benefits in. That would probably be the best way to update Helio Rush, is to leave a healing area from either where you start or where you end. Preferably where you end, I would say. But all in all, the actual attacks are pretty fluid, and I really enjoy it. And this then leads me to talking about how I've been approaching the spear. As I said, it's more of a power-oriented weapon with a little bit more support focus. And in the open world of Janthir Wilds, that support is pretty useful. Now, when I was originally playing the expansion, I was playing with a firebrand as a damage-oriented set. However, because this weapon attacks somewhat slow and there aren't any innate conditions on this build for the spear, in hindsight, it probably wasn't the smartest decision because you're not getting as much condition damage out of this. So I have since swapped to Dragon Hunter, and I'm finding a lot more success with it, personally. And that's not to say that you can't use Firebrand with the spear. I personally have gone into some strike missions, and I've been playing this as a healing weapon, as an off weapon to my staff, which I use as your main support weapon. This allows you to have a little bit more strike damage and have some melee approach and tools, and I think it fits pretty well. I'm not sure in terms of the numbers if you still want to micromanage and, you know, go with axe and shield or a different weapon set, but I think it's definitely viable. So you can play as an either DPS focused character or a support healing focused character, whichever one you prefer. The spear has been treating me very nicely in regards to playing with a Dragon Hunter, and I would probably recommend most players to roll with a Dragon Hunter in open world if you are looking to just do damage and to kill enemies. You have a pretty useful time, an easy time killing enemies out in the open world, and with the virtues being a nice utility set. With the spear you have a pull, your F2 offers you some healing for yourself and allies, and also a nice mobility feature as it is a movement tool, and then also your F3 is a lingering block mechanic. So the Dragon Hunter seems to be working very well with the spear. I have tried the Willbender, and the Willbender is a little bit of a different approach. It's not as fast as maybe you would want for like sword or sword focus, scepter focus, but I still think that it is a plausible route to go down if you prefer the mechanics. A little bit more mobility with your F skills, with F1, F2, F3, and then even the utility skills of shadow stepping and knocking your enemies down. And then I did mention the Firebrand. I would probably recommend players to play a more support-focused role if you're looking to take the spear, but hey, don't let me stop you. If you want to play more of a powered DPS, or maybe there is a Condi DPS route here and I just haven't figured it out just yet, that is definitely an option for you to playtest. Now, in regards to how it fits in Janthir Wilds, Janthir Wilds is shockingly, and I say this as a very much a positive feature of the expansion, it is filled with many enemies that apply conditions to you, both damaging conditions and inhibiting conditions. And when they were first previewing the spear, I realized that there was a lot of condition damage and condition mitigation on it. And I was a little bit worried that this was going to be more of a player versus player, world versus world specific weapon, and it most certainly is. But I have found quite a bit of use for the spear in Janthir Wilds. With resolution, you're able to reduce that condition damage, and then on the symbol, it's granting resistance, which is the very first symbol that Guardian has, which grants that boon. And this will deactivate non-damaging conditions on you, meaning that you won't be impacted by slows, cripples, vulnerability, and weakness, so you're still able to play with ease. And then additionally, with Solar Storm cleansing those conditions and healing you for them, it's working very well together in terms of the Janthir Wilds experience. Now, how this is going to feel in other maps that have less of that condition pressure, we'll have to find out. So again, I'm always in favor of them going back to other expansions or even core maps and adding a little bit more condition damage in terms of bleeds, weakness application, more poison, and I think it's an important element of the game for ArenaNet to highlight and for them to encourage maybe lower level characters and players to realize what these mechanics are of conditions and boons and, you know, condition cleansing. I think it all works to aid people's gameplay literacy. So with the spears coming to every single character, every single profession, having this paired up with the Dragon Hunter just feels so correct. Being able to throw out a spear of light to pull enemies in and then using it to pull them to melee range where you can then use your actual spear to deal damage to them. I think it just works so wonderfully, and I'm so happy with the spear for Guardian. Once again, I would only really critique the way that the illuminated effect has panned out for the second ability, and I critique the way that there is no interaction with the auto attack. So all in all, it's a really strong weapon. I think it's doing some pretty good damage that people have been able to test, and I think because it adds this minor support element to it, you can build it in that direction to focus on it, or you can just play this out in Janthir Wilds and still feel quite sustainable yourself, giving yourself your healing, resolution access, cleansing your conditions, and applying resistance to yourself so that you can make sure that you are not going to be in a extremely weakened state fighting in the open world. Thank you all so very much for coming on by this little video where I talk about my general first impressions of the Guild Wars 2 Guardian Spear and how it seems to be fitting into the class. I would love to hear your experience with the Guardian Spear down below, so feel free to comment, maybe recommend some builds you're trying out or approaching it in a different way. Also, if you've taken this into PvP, I would love to hear what you have to say because I have yet to. So I'll be looking out for those. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to get early access to videos, I'm going to be posting my story reactions there on the Patreon early, as well as these other videos going over all the professions and how they feel with the spear now that Janthir Wilds has launched. If you'd like to order Janthir Wilds, I have links down below. I'm an ArenaNet partner. Thank you so very much, ArenaNet. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you and take care. Mwah.